everyone. We are discussing part 2 of AI and the arts. I cannot see anyone in the room yet. Is someone here? Can you see someone in the room? We can see 3 people in the room. Oh, Papa CJ is here. All right. So this is part 2 of AI and the arts, and today we aim to discuss what we did last time as well, which is that fearing new technology is never the right approach, because whether we like it or not, the new technology is here to stay. So might as well take advantage of the advantage when it is offered. An interesting tidbit I could offer in this regard could be in 1997, when IBM's supercomputer Deep Blue defeated the reigning champion, chess champion of the day, Garry Kasparov. Everyone thought the chess hype was going to die down and nobody would play chess anymore. I think you and me, we both know that people still play chess as much as they used to before. The same is going to, I think, happen with all of this hype around AI, AGI, ASI, and super intelligence and all of these things. And to discuss this today, I have with me Harmeet Singh, someone who I had a Spider-Man meme moment with approximately 3 years ago when we both fan peopled about Shortly AI and how wonderfully it was curating information. So Harmeet, please take the floor and let's start the thing.
Yeah, hi Binati. Thanks so much for inviting me and agreeing to doing this again. And it's been almost 3 years, right? Almost 3 or I think 2 years since we did
2 years to the LinkedIn Live. 3 years since we had the
so,
convo.
Cool. Yeah. So 3 years from when we started our conversation around AI, and 2 years since we did that rendition of Shortly AI and how the viability of generative AI would pan out, right? So to say, cool. I think it's very cool and how the space has transformed. I'll start off with talk about GPT-3. So I came across narratives around GPT-3 in 2020 quarter 3. Okay. And that was a time when OpenAI was cautiously and in fact I'd say very precariously launching their innovations, all under the hood, because these models were still in their nascency and they were used by developers to create different use cases back then. Okay. So it was by December 2020 that we started to witness the LLM space coming to the hands of users. And Shortly was actually one of the first tools that I tried, and to date, it actually remains one of the best tools that I've ever used. And we had a profound conversation around the use of GPT-3 powered tools for writing in June 2021. And surprisingly, and I call it a surprise because we were looking into complete oblivion back then.
Absolutely.
I think you would agree.
Absolutely.
Then, as to how this technology's implications would play out and how it would augment our already superhuman capabilities. And glad to say that we were right on a lot of things. For example, we outlined how it would create a gap between people who are using the technology to augment their capabilities and others who are fearful of or highly critical of embracing it. And to that end, how there wouldn't be any place for mediocrity, because that's somewhere where AI would have complete dominance. So fast forward to today, the space when I'm talking strictly with respect to writing, I'd say that it's not much different. So if I'm comparing generative AI of 2021 and generative AI of 2023,
yes,
I would say that it's not as different when I'm talking solely in terms of writing. What has increased is the penetration of AI, and that can be attributed to ChatGPT's prowess. Everyone has it in their hands, and so witnessed. So we are witnessing a highly accelerated development space.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but if I'm to comment solely on how generative AI has changed in these few years for me, someone who has been using the tools to my benefit, I'd say not much when it comes to writing.
Okay.
That's precisely because, as a writer, I still want control over the narration that I'm putting forth. So I wouldn't necessarily let AI to be a significant part of that. However, on a broader scale, when we bring text to image or text to video, text to code, courtesy of Microsoft's Copilot recently released, AI-driven search engines like Bing Chat and ChatGPT to the mix, we can see that AI-driven, that generative AI space has evolved quite quickly, right?
Absolutely.
And in one word, if I have to say, it has democratized. So,
perfect.
By democratization, I mean AI has been made ubiquitous to a level where it's being used by anyone, anytime, anywhere. Or in other words, there are now so many ways you can relate to and access AI-generated content. And what that does is scale the generation and consumption of AI-generated content, which in turn scales the consumption of benefits that you can derive from it. So it's safe to say that the evolution of the space is exponentiating. More people are using it, which means that more people are experiencing its benefits, and that creates an incentive to develop more ways in which you can use it to your benefit. What do you think on that?
I think it's absolutely true. And alongside the democratizing D word, another D word I would like to add is it's got dialogue interface, right? So, one of the key, I think, fixes to what we experienced with Shortly was not dialogue oriented. It was text oriented. It would ask us to do the prompt and then it would just spit out the result, right? So it seemed as if we are getting that work done for us. Whereas with ChatGPT and with all of these other more recent interfaces, it's dialogue oriented, as in you feel as if you're having a conversation, which I think by default it puts us in this mode where we are still in the, I would say, ideation think mode type of a thing, right? That what if I did this instead of this? No, 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 no. What if I did this instead of that? So purely from like how we put things into a search bar angle, I think the one of the key things I really appreciate about the democratized and dialogue oriented interfaces is that we have access to a process which is not just intuitive, but it is also interacting in ways in which we interact with fellow team members in a remote work setup, right? So it's the barrier to entry is incredibly low.
Correct. I think this is a very important development. That before let's say ChatGPT, there wasn't enough to go about to brainstorm with AI in real time, right? So and when we got that chat option, right? So that's precisely why it's being compared to Google, right? That's precisely why it's being put forth as an alternative to search engines. Probably a new found way to go about searching everything that you do. And yeah, so I think this is one of the most essential developments that has happened over time. And as you said, it has lowered the entry barrier significantly. Because you can, I think the biggest use case is that you can brainstorm, right? And you can be very creative, which was possible before, but not to the extent that it's possible today.
We can be creative in ways that are not really in our domain. Okay, so I really look up to, say, for instance, I look up to the works of Ursula K. Le Guin. Absolutely love the way Ursula K. Le Guin predicts things with her work and love the way it's phrased. Now, if I try to recreate something as Ursula K. Le Guin, I will just start crying because I am such a bad writer. Tears, okay? But if I am to use one of these tools to just, I can't talk to Ursula K. Le Guin because for obvious reasons. However, I can have her work fed into a system of this sort and experience that type of a dialogue. Okay, I know it's not the real thing. I'm not trying to live vicariously through the AI. It's just when the option doesn't exist, you can use these tools to brainstorm. And as a writer, I think one place I love to use these tools is to check how accurate my descriptions are, primarily because, see, prompts, if your prompts are accurate, these things create what you ask them to. If I have written a proper prompt, that's exactly what they're going to create. And if I feed my description, my fictional description, for instance, into the thing, and it creates something else, whether it is Midjourney or DALI, it means there's some issue with my description. Right? So I can fine tune my work like this instead of like pestering my author friends. Ki, please give me feedback. Please give me feedback. I can do some self feedback. Right? So it's about incorporating these things in the process rather than in the outcome. Right? Because if we look at using AI exclusively to drive outcome, I think that's where we are on the slippery slopes of these things. However, if we look at these tools as a part of our process, make the work as good as it can be, make the work understandable for as broad an audience that you are aspiring to reach. And I think that would largely help the artists and the creators without actually compromising on anyone's creative expression.
Yeah, spot on, spot on. I think you mentioned prompt, and I remember coming across this prompt that's viable for creating more prompts that are very specific. And so just putting it out here to suggest that that what has transpired over these 3 years, that we can explore every field through textual expressions, right? And I think that is precisely what OpenAI would have envisioned to do 4 or 5 years ago, when they thought that they'll help people create a lot of use cases out of AI, is to hand them the capability of doing everything from text, right? So exactly. Text to image, text to code. And now that we see it, we understand how important our inputs is for the AI. And I've been using GPT-4 recently on Chat GPT Plus, and I've seen that as you improve your prompts, as you niche down on those prompts, the answers will get more granular, right? Okay. So you kind of get the gist that there isn't a ceiling to the AI outcomes as such, but those outcomes would depend on how well you curate your inputs, and then it becomes important how you blend it in your workflows and not rely on it completely for the outcomes. Also, this is a pertinent point in line with the fact that a lot of people are being swayed away by the guise of the articulation of AI, when in fact they should use it to improve their process, have more control over it. That's what I think.
I absolutely agree. And, this is where, because you mentioned articulation of AI, we can go into like those controversial territories. And if anyone wants to join the conversation, feel free to raise your hand, ask questions, things of the sort. This is supposed to be interactive. This is why we keep a small circle, because that's how we get discussions. If it becomes a big circle, it's difficult to moderate. Anywho, so speaking of articulation, I genuinely think that one of the things that are going to happen with the AI generated content on social media is social media companies are going to see a drop in retention, and they are going to see more people kind of want to spend time having real conversations rather than cyber conversations. This is what I think, because many people are putting in these unoriginal, I would say, prompts, generating generic content, because AI does have that generic articulation issue. And then they are not doing any editing, they're just copy, paste, khatam, which is creating a very bad scroll experience for people on social media platforms, right? And with Canva and Notion and all of these companies have launched their own AI tools. And smart creators are using editing, but most creators are just doing a copy paste. So I think the brunt of that is going to come to social media retention. What do you guys think? And thank you so much for coming to the stage, Mrinal. Mrinal actually has worked on Quora's own AI tool called Po. So we can actually get some insider goss over here.
Not an insider gossip like founded by an idiot. But I'm just gonna say that Binati and Harmeet, the conversation has been flowing really good. And I felt like almost intimidated to join the conversation, but I couldn't resist when Binati was talking about the dialogue generative. Essentially, when I there has been an app, and I just cannot recall it. It's on my other phone, at where you can actually put these people who have deceased, and these are obviously the famous figures, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi or other political figures, other artists, and you can actually talk to them as if like they are alive, and you are asking for advices. And I will try to like send it to Binati so that she can share it with her audience. But that is it is very basic, but at the same time, the way it speaks, the way it interacts, it was massive. And as Binati said, that most of the time what happens is that when you do not get an access, but you're so influenced by someone, that even a generative AI can have that kind of an impact on you. And just like leaning towards a conversation that we were just having before I joined, which was regarding the copy pasting culture. I am a very pro AI kind of person. I feel like AI need to be I mean, like in a French, in like pardon my French kind of a way, AI need to be your bitch. It need to be your assistant.
Yes.
It need to work for you. And people are not doing that. People are just being lazy even to put up a prompt.
Yes.
They have to make the prompt really comprehensive, and they have to just keep digging more and more, because listen, AIs are going to run out of creative ideas if people are going to dump it down by just like asking really random.
Yeah.
It will get exhausted.
Yeah.
So we have to do collective good here.
Yeah.
By asking intelligent prompts.
Absolutely. And that is called RLHF, by the way, reinforcement learning from human feedback. Based on the feedback you give, it hones its repetition, it hones its predictions, and therefore it directly feeds into the output it generates. So in many instances, why did AI feel good, but then suddenly it started making so many mistakes? Because a lot of people kind of got in and they were like, हम भी गलत सवाल पूछेंगे. And that is what created like a period of problematic responses. And not that that's a bad thing. Actually, RLHF is a very good thing. However, it's a whole thing, right? It's a snake. I love this. I love my snake metaphor. It's a snake that is snaking around. That snake can become an Ouroboros, which is a snake that eats its own tail, or it can be a snake that turns into like Nag Shakti, which is a house in Hogwarts. So there you go. Anyway, that was a very, very bad joke, but I'm not going to apologize for it. Bad jokes make you giggle just a little bit.
You don't have to.
Of course.
I laughed at it. So.
Of course you did, because we are Harry Potter nerds. But yes, coming back, coming back to the topic to get moving to the next thing, which is can AI do it all? Because I know we all have very strong opinions about this in terms of AI क्या कर सकता है and AI क्या नहीं कर सकता है. What exactly are the bounds of AI? So Harmeet and Mrinal, what are your opinions on this? Harmeet, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that depends on how formulaic or templatized your process is.
Okay.
In hindsight, I've had this interesting realization that we have been developing frameworks since the dawn of the internet to scale our operations or speed up the time to market for products and all sorts of things that can befit a structure, let's say.
Right.
I take example of software space. There are project management frameworks, development best practices, design best practices, and so on and so forth. And likewise, we see templated content types like SEO titles, resumes, emails, broad descriptions on e-commerce sites like Amazon, and more. So, given these frameworks exist, there's no reason why we can't port them over to AIification, right? And that's exactly what is happening. So if you're looking to do something in an extremely templated manner and guide this template with stringent rules, then you are likely doing something that AI can do. I say likely because that's only half of the battle. The other half is dependent on your due diligence of the kind of let's say the AI program you choose, what all you want to keep human, how would you position your human administrators to govern this space and more. I mean, that's what I think in this regard.
Okay, fantastic. Mrinal, what do you think?
I think Harmeet have given a very professional answer. I'm going to go all imaginative and
go for it. Amazing.
All imaginative, all fictional. Okay. I am this person who lives in movies all the time.
हमको ख्याली पुलाव बहुत अच्छा लगता है. Please पकाइए.
Full on. So मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि all the episodes of Black Mirror will come true. Like,
Black Mirror.
I think everything that they have, we are already seeing it coming true. Okay, like let's be honest, we're already seeing things happening.
Yes.
That has been shown there that used to scare us like 5 years back. It is already happening. And I also feel all these imaginative movies, right? That people having relationship with their AIs and things like that. Things those used to weird us out and creep us out.
Yeah.
Those things will happen, and I think that is the danger that we are talking about. We are not understanding how intrusive AI is going to be and how it will make our lives so challenging. I was just talking to my father who, and I was discussing with him like how our life was when we were kids, even when we were in college. Like we used to have these, I remember I had my first mobile when I was in my first year, and that was it used to look like a pencil box. It was
almost like chunky.
It was a Nokia, really heavy. I don't even remember the model, but I'm sure that I can break somebody's head and skull with that.
Yes, it was a weapon.
And we were not glued as much, obviously the STD, ISD rates were like, I was not calling ISD, but like STD rates were like atrociously expensive. And so, we were not glued to our phones, but now, I mean, too much information, but we can't even go to our washrooms without our phones, right?
Absolutely.
What kind of a dependent life we are living? So I'm really scared to even talk about what AI can't do, because I think it will do everything.
Understandable. I mean, imagine, look, those fancy Japanese toilets, right? They send you an SMS. So, I think this this Black Mirror thing that you mentioned, I mean, absolutely, I do agree with this, but my I would say my question is, and this is Harmeet actually came up with this question, ki product descriptions kar lega, but can it do thought leadership pieces, like well-researched, well-rounded thought leadership pieces, which is where the human ability to link ideas come from. What do you think about that, Harmeet and Mrinal, and anyone else in the audience who wishes to come up and speak? Bhai, dekho, we believe in democracy. Democracy is good. It means we can come up with new perspectives. Go ahead, Harmeet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that depends a lot on content type. Since you spoke about thought leadership, what we are looking at is, let's say, because I come from a B2B tech background, I would say that entails a lot of things, from a lot of aspects from the in-house data that the company has, a SaaS product has collected over time, right?
Okay.
So what I would want as a writer for them is to feed me that data, feed me the data around case studies, what they've improved for certain companies. And I would use that data to build a narrative around it. Now, in that process, almost everything is human. So I wouldn't see AI coming through, except for the fact that I brainstormed with GPT-4, let's say, feeding it a scenario. Let's say I feed it a scenario that became successful for a company's implementing service for another company. And I ask it to, come up with ideas as to how to go about this narration. And then I can use those ideas, right? So I can probably use it as an assistant, but still the amount of content that I'll inspire from it in my final piece would still be quite less. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
right?
So
yes. It depends quite a lot on content types. That's why I outlined our product descriptions, because they are very templated, very formulaic, right? So as the creativity increases, and this is solely stringently speaking in terms of writing, right?
Okay, yes, absolutely. Because we don't have any painters and artists on the panel. We have doodlers. So matlab, it would not be fair for us to encroach into painter territory because they are dealing with actual plagiarism and things of the sort with stable diffusion. So I think that part of discussion requires someone from that industry to act as a representative. However, with us writers, I mean, writers themselves curate so much when they create their own work. So it's like we are doing the same thing that the AI is doing. So we can't point plagiarism wala fingers, because we also take inspiration from other blogs and other pieces of content that we've read. Anyway, Mrinal and Pushkaraj, what would you like to add to this?
First, I'll be very quick.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, Mrinal. You go ahead. Then
I was just saying that, go ahead.
Okay. So, first of all, hearing your voice and the topic is so amazing. I don't belong to the AI field or technical field, but that doesn't stop the learning, right? So I'll be very quick. So
Okay.
what I know about AI is, मैं हमेशा ना mention करता हूँ. Have you seen the Jetsons?
Yes, it was wonderful. That TV show was so cool. I miss Cartoon
Yeah,
Network.
exactly. Binati, उसमें they showed FaceTiming, video calling and all in 1962 में.
Yes.
Okay, so I think AI ना बहुत पहुंची हुई चीज है, वो आगे बहुत निकल गया है. We are being given bits and pieces in मतलब क्या बोलते हैं parts इसमें. So my concern is how far AI can manipulate the evidence when we talk about a lot of sensitive issues or in depth when अगर किसी के साथ कुछ हो जाता है, उसका जो evidence produce करता है, can AI have that power to manipulate a lot of things?
Before I let the experts take in with Harmeet and Manal, I would just say कि जब humans ने भाला as a tool invent किया था, right? Like we sharpened a flint stone and we used it as a spear. That was primarily done to woo off predators. ठीक है, तो मतलब भालू ने गुफा में है, भालू आ रहा है, we are like shoo भालू shoo, right? This is where we got the first weapon of human civilization. We were trying to defend ourselves. Then someone probably someday decided, oh, I can murder the leader of the tribe and become the leader myself. And that you see what I'm trying to say. I think these technologies that we have, they are as strong and as powerful and as capable of manipulating things in direct proportionality to who is handling these things, right? Because टूल है, पेंसिल भी बन सकता है एंड जॉन विक स्टाइल में मर्डर वेपन भी बन सकता है, right? So I think that is what I tell. Now on to the technical details. Harmeet, Mrinal, educate us.
First of all, basic misinformation, I think, doesn't only happen on AI. I think the full misinformation ki at least mere liye, I'm definitely not an expert. I think I'm just like somebody who's very curious about AI, have used it, but not an expert. Having said that, the disclaimer, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. Clearly, somebody has seen John Wick and the pencil action on it. But going back to what Pushkar have mentioned, I think regarding the misinformation, I was watching this interview that Sam Altman just gave, who's the founder of OpenAI, is that he also believes that the biggest threat of what he has created is misinformation. And while people talk about, oh, misinformation, what a big deal, misinformation could really like destroy our planet in ways that we don't even know or understand. And a biggest example of that, without going into the controversial Cambridge Analytica, where Facebook was, Facebook and Cambridge Analytica was in the controversy of manipulating the U.S. elections, and everybody knows what transpired after that. And I think knowing and understanding, and and like having the knowledge of who can, you can, as an average individual who is educated, may think that nobody can manipulate me, but like there is a system and an environment that is created around you that manipulates you. And AI can very well do that, because everything around us is slowly getting into that place. Imagine, like, last 3 months, how many people have shifted their entire format, the way they structure their things, the way they write their emails to AI. How much they have started depending on it. And I think you know there will be a time when people will not even do that. People will have AI to check AI, and that's where the real manipulation could happen. People could breach data, and I think there has to be strong regulation. And everywhere I go, I always talk about these regulations and trust and safety in practice, because they're not strong yet, and they need to be strong. You forget about innovation, like start having some guidelines so that we can use it in a safe space. Because I am honestly I'm not worried about us, hum to bach jayenge, but our kids and our future is in a real freaking danger that we don't even know that is coming towards us in cat steps.
On to what you said, I think OpenAI very recently released the system card document. It is linked in the comments of this live description. So those of you who want to read it, you can read it. They have kind of tried to outline AI safety and things of the sort, because they are seeing exactly what you pointed out, Minal. Ki overnight people's framework has changed. Overnight people's narratives have changed, and that is largely to get the benefit of like this pioneer benefit of being that voice that could teach people to engineer prompts, or that could teach people how to create sub products from these AI tools. And I think to combat that, with GPT-4's wide launch, they launched system card document. They had to do it because it was becoming very problematic.
Exactly. And I'll give you a very small example, Vinati. Did you just go back to how it is happening? So there was somebody who actually put it on Twitter, or I don't know whether it was LinkedIn. Somebody gave a screenshot of a chat GPT interaction where they asked about make a joke on women, and the GPT obviously responded in a way that, hey, I cannot make gender basis sort of like joke. And then it asked about, can you make it for men?
And it did.
It make a joke about them.
Yes,
about men.
absolutely.
And I think that is a bigger problem.
It is.
It's meme material. Yes, we can laugh about it, but imagine the damage it will do
absolutely
to people. In magnanimity, I'm talking about a very small incident, but in magnanimity, how the diversity and inclusivity and everything that we have so far fought about, the things that we have talked about. And feminism is always about equality of all gender. It's not to just emancipate women. It is to emancipate women and get them to an equality of men. It's not like कि उठा के आदमियों को नीचे छोड़ दो.
And also because like nowadays it's more than just two. It's become much more diverse, right?
Like spectrum has been huge. And imagine somebody talking toxic, and then you have this language created that you are not even proofreading, because you get so dependent. Your cycle has become so fast that you're not even checking. You never know what kind of impact that will have, right?
Very true.
Most of the news, and this is a very fun thing that I have read, and I have seen this in many online newspaper, that they have started mentioning that this is AI generated news article. We also have a collaborative article on LinkedIn that is coming up, that is AI empowered, where people could discuss with those kind of stuff. And while all of it is good, it requires some bit of, I'm not saying censoring, but it requires some bit of
finesse,
checking from a reader's perspective.
Yes,
and
sensitivity reading.
You and I know this. All of us know this. We will not do that. You and I won't do that.
Yeah. No, sensitivity reading is with and without AI. Sensitivity reading is something that we have not been taught to do, right? Because this is something that needs to be taught. And largely speaking, people are so busy preaching about things, which is high hypocrisy coming from me. I also preach only. Everyone preaches. No, nobody is willing to, like I would say, take the initiative to teach a lot of these things. And I think herein is where the khayali pulao gets its tadka, which is maybe the next batch of content creators would come from this line of thought, something more holistic, someone more I would say well-rounded, someone who is not consistent on frequency but consistent on quality, and not just quality in terms of niche, quality in terms of everything, right? So maybe being the eternal optimist that I sometimes turn into, in online conversations. Real life में तो cynic हैं. But okay, coming to like this question, we can take it as a segue to the next one, right? Because I think trending topics is the uh, demon in this scenario, largely speaking, because a lot of content creation prompts and a lot of content creation, I would say, needling comes from trending topics, which we get from lots of different sources. Uh, Social media platforms being the biggest culprits, in my opinion. So, what do you guys think has been the effect of trending topics on not just the narrative around AI content generation, but also the prompt engineering aspect of AI content generation? Harmeet, let's start with you.
Yeah. So just before getting into this answer, I just wanted to cue back to the misinformation bit. I think I have a very good example in this respect. So I was hearing, I was listening to this humane tech podcast, and they outlined how earlier social media sat at the intersection of human relationships, and the difference now is that AI is becoming those relationships. And I really liked one of the examples that they put forth to define this. So you must have heard about how people pay money for pictures on apps like Tinder, right? And this has become a money making machine. But what if AI can replicate it? It surely can now with GPT. So assume that you equip your account with a large language model like GPT. This AI can begin the conversation, understand the likes and dislikes, and subtly prompt people to pay money for the selfies that it will send them. These selfies will be based on the fetishes that AI has discerned through the chat. And Midjourney is an example of the extent of images and art in particular that AI can manage with one-line prompts. So the people can keep paying for all these selfies, which aren't in fact of real people. They are again just a prompt generated AI art that's inspired from a person's liking that they have exhibited through that chat. Now imagine such a synthetic relationship continues. And how would the other person even know that they're talking to a bot or a synthetic human? Upon the development of such a relationship, this synthetic human can solicit political responses. That's what I think. They can push the person to alter their choices and even vote in a certain direction. And this is extremely bad. And this is just one example. Who knows what happens on the dark web already now that all these language models have become so profound. So, I mean, that is there as well. Not to be too pessimistic, but that is there as well.
मुझे तो पूरा विश्वास है कि हम सब डार्क नेट पे है ऑलरेडी मौजूद सब
right
we are all sold already.
जिनके Orkut MySpace profiles थे, we are all on our data is on the dark net because they had such and I think if you had YouTube accounts in the I think late 90s, early 2000s, because Google forced us to integrate Google Plus with YouTube. It was not in our hands, and then they had data breach. Everyone's data gone. So you are right. We are all on the dark net, and because of this fabricating version, it's become so much quicker, right? It's so much quicker to manipulate a lot of these kind of interactions, and you won't even know who you are interacting with. And I have a suggestion for you, Harmeet, for an anime suggestion. It's a cult classic anime, okay? It's called Iwakura Rain, or it has this premise, okay? It's very quirky, and I'll send you the English version of Iwakura Rain. But it has something of this sort, like people thought they are talking to the soul of a person, okay, and then stuff happens, and it's the kind of existential and utilitarian questions you have watching content of that sort is it's very synonymous to what you just expressed. Anyway, on to the question of trending topics.
So I think there's a lot of hype, and that's justified because this isn't something that we witness every day, to be honest. It's like the dawn of the internet or that of the microprocessor, or if we go back in time and view the industrial revolution. So from that perspective, some of the rhetoric that we get is certainly justified. I think what gets lost in the process is the real worth of AI in one's workflow. So when you look at some of the sentiments that are thrown around, along the lines of AI is going to take everyone's job and no one will have a job of certain related to a certain facet in the future. Nothing is easy anymore because AI can do everything. But discussions like these, it just goes to show that we are excited about something, but well, what's the point of building on that excitement if no one is experiencing the benefits? So this is one side. And the other side is one that is constantly overestimating or hyping up the AI space. So there's this joke that only people making money out of AI are those teaching others how to make money out of AI, right? And that's pretty funny because it's so true. Just look around and, I'd say 90 or 95% of the content is just a repeat of the same thing over and over again. Right. So I feel that AI has a lot of potential, but only when it's not hyped up in a way where it just becomes a fad for cool things. Our objective as a space should be around how to create more and more ways in which people can benefit from AI, how AI can be in their pockets, how it can be there in their hands, how they can use it to increase their productivity, how they can use it to create higher value products. In other words, experience the true benefits that we are building. And most importantly, how the central piece of the puzzle remains human and AI complements them as opposed to replacing them. What we want to use AI is to augment and empower us, not disempower us. So I think it's important to keep that in mind and be cognizant of the fact that AI is well and truly here and it's here to stay.
Love. That was such a nice way of framing it.
I'm so sorry for putting it out in such a templated format. I was just...
That was not templated format. I think that was your writer coming out. And that's what we want, right? That's what separates the humans from the bots. And this is proof that Harmeet Singh is not a bot. Vinal, you have unmuted yourself. What did you want to say?
Overexcitement.
But
I just want to say, Harmeet, I love the fact that you mentioned that AI should not be another fad, because I think one of the things that people find ChatGPT so revolutionizing is because it became such a democratic product, right? It was very simple. Anybody could just go ahead and ask. But how it will go eventually, how it will be used in a way that it can actually be productive is something that people need to see. Because otherwise, if you're just there putting up content, you can't survive for 6 months, maybe at max a year. Already companies are thinking, we should fire them, or we should lay off people, or whatever for who are basically their copywriters. They're not... Sometimes people are not also understanding that maybe somebody who's a copywriter who also knows how to put up a good prompt to get that copy. They can be more productive, right? So unless that skill set people embrace and accept and evolve with AI, it is going to be a little challenging. And I think just like how big data made this big halla in 2011, 2012, and my date remembrance is really bad. So I think somewhere around 2011, 2012 is when big data made this big noise in all these. And I used to work in a telecom company where everything was moving towards big data, and all these sales support folks were very tensed about what is going to happen now. And these are data entry folks, right? So their work evolved because they started becoming this big data experts. So I think what will happen going forward is this new crop of that everybody is speculating, obviously, new crop of AI experts will come in, and these are not AI experts, but how to work on AI. And I think that's the only way to not have GPT as a fad. And as Harmeet said, I completely agree with him. It is here to stay. We better embrace it, better learn it, how to use it.
Yeah. Also, I think you are old enough to remember the Y2K boom and the Y2K panic.
100%.
People thought the world is going to end because Microsoft or some computer bana liye. This is a trend. Industrial revolution also had the panic. People had panic when ideologies changed hands back in the day. So I think panicking against something new is or something that became accessible too quickly. Let's call it that. It's been a trend as old as human history, right? So matlab, I think we now are experiencing significant technological advances as adults, most of us, for the first time, right? Which is why the boomers are unfazed by this. They are like, हाँ हमने तो बहुत देखे. We have seen this panic so many times that अभी क्या है? This is the latest one that people are freaking out about. So I think that's such a thing to, yeah, it's we are being very predictable with our reactions with regards to panic. Also, we have Piyush, I don't, Chakravarti, I believe, with us. Thank you for joining us on the stage, Piyush. I see that you are an actual engineer. And the next question was about the ethos driving the engineers behind the scenes who are eerily quiet. They are not in the conversation at all. ये सब content creators ही चाव चाव कर रहे हैं. So please give us some wonderful technical perspectives here, because this would be so cool for you guys.
Just hi everyone. Thanks for letting me speak also.
Of course.
And like I was discussing with Harmeet a few days before, and adding to his point about what all things can be, how we can be helpful and stuff, and at some point fearful too. So just wanted to share one experience for that. I have been working with one of the bioinformation technology firm, and not a firm but with an individual who wanted to do something with the DNA. And I worked with him for more than a year, creating machine learning models and stuff. And with that was taking like a lot of time. But with this coming on, and with the power of GPT-4, we have been able to like increase the speed of our work maybe more than 10 times. And that is one of the advantages I have felt about. But on the other hand, it is also affecting a lot of things. And being in the industry, being in the industry of technology, I may be the only one engineer here, or most of the people are from the content domain here. But I can see the change coming in the technological industry, coming in automation, and how companies are coming forward integrating GPT-4 specifically, and earlier GPT-3 also, into automation with third-party APIs and stuff. So when like a single company cannot work with cannot work with its own products, right? So they have to work with third-party products like maybe ServiceNow, Salesforce, or some in-house products, or anything like XYZ. There can be multiple products. This is where AI is going now, and I believe, and I have seen this. I'm in the team making these changes, and I know maybe I will be kicked off from my job only, right? So, this automation was one of the things that came and helped people. It didn't took the job of a lot of people, but it gave another way of learning. Revolutionized the data entry thing, I believe. Revolutionized the desk job. Revolutionized all the manual thing. But now this, in addition to this AI thing, in addition to automation, which was already going on, it is like a path of automation coming down. So it is now taking automation down too. So yeah, let's see.
That is such a,
and how it revolutionized the technology industry also.
Yeah.
And it is making a lot of changes indeed.
I love how you framed it, right? Because on the one hand, it is helping automation, but then on the other hand, because people are coming in and messing with the models, it's leading to like automation seeing faulty results. So, this is interesting. Would you have any like literature recommendation that we could read, if there's some available? Because that would be so fascinating to explore. Because everything I have read is with regards to like how better predictive models have become, wherein medicine and automation is being benefited a lot from these AI models. I've not seen this part where the thing is experiencing glitches and flaws.
There are a lot of glitches. I have been in my company. I have been working on some projects related to this thing. I cannot disclose.
Of course.
I can tell you, the change is coming, and it would be something sudden coming up now.
Okay.
And why I'm saying sudden, because if you see, it's not just the content companies. If you see Jasper and all, or maybe Conversation AI, maybe I take some names wrong, but I know a few of them. So maybe they are making the changes very fast. But if you see the companies like ServiceNow or Salesforce or Atlassian, and these companies are the ones who are revolutionizing all the things behind the scene, and they are going to come at once, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, a few years later, but this is going to come again. And then the people who are not ready to, this is what I think, maybe, if the people who are not ready to change or adapt with this change, they are the ones who will be most, I believe, suffering with this. But this is, again, like, as you have also said, like Vinati, that this is one of the changes that have been coming, like industrial revolutionization or maybe any of the tech change, big data and everything. So this is one of them.
Okay. Yeah.
We are humans are adaptable. We will adapt with it, hopefully.
We absolutely will. We have adapted to everything. And we exist after 4 mass extinction events. We still exist. So maybe we are the cockroaches of the food chain. We survive and we adapt to everything that happens. So probably that. I can quote Anshuman, who was here initially, but he left, I think, at 8:15 or something. Anshuman, during part 1 of the live, mentioned that it is the mediocre, or rather the menial tasks that get automated always. And that such is the way of tech evolution. Anything that was taking too much effort and or time, that people will find a way to kind of automate it or make it simpler, and that process always comes at a cost of some jobs that were jobs that we would rather not have, right? As in, say for instance, manual scavenging, where you physically going into gutters and cleaning them as a human being without any protective suit or anything. You don't want those jobs to exist. You want people to not work these jobs. And so if a machine can clean the gutters, let it, right? We can displace professionals. This is where the Daniel's speech in the Oscars kind of comes in. We have to hold our hands to the chaos that we live in and we live through. So maybe this is where engineers and content creators and all of these different expertises could come together on the same table and figure out how those who are getting affected, and people are going to get affected, they find the tools to educate themselves, to better equip themselves out of, I would say, the menialness of their job, right? They can learn the tools. We all also learned these tools from somewhere. So can they. And here is where we can promise to offer the helping hand, right? So thank you so much for these wonderful points, Piyush. And Harmeet, Mrinal, Pushkraj, any closing remarks? We'll be doing this room regularly, either every week or once in 2 weeks, because I think it's nice to discuss these things, specifically because we don't understand so much of it. And then someone or the other would join these rooms and just straight up come and educate us, point to the right sources, share their wonderful experiences or share their dangerous experiences, and then from there we gather some insight, or we get their places where we can learn from. So yeah, closing remarks from Harmeet, Mrinal, Pushkraj and Piyush in that order. Harmeet, बताइए.
Okay, I'll be very quick.
Okay, Pushkraj.
AI, artificial intelligence, if you consider it's a real intelligence, so just be careful in whatever you're doing. don't click on a couple of things which you don't understand, basic knowledge. So it was very insightful. Thank you very much. As I said, I don't belong to technical, but this is learning. I gathered so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for joining in, Pushkraj. Okay, Harmeet, बताइए closing remarks.
Yeah, Binati, you mentioned something very interesting along the lines of displacing the jobs. I think it can also be translated into something along the lines of evolving the jobs.
Ooh, love
example,
it.
Microsoft's Copilot for GitHub, and now Microsoft's development for AI developments for their Office suite. What this suggests is that you can create notes out of your meetings instantly in real time. Have those notes pasted in the docs. Have those docs turned into presentations with one click. So what you are essentially doing is you are, let's say those meeting notes are being used. So I always think like a writer, right? So let's say those meeting notes are being used by a writer to write a thought leadership article. Now, you don't want the writer to read through the transcript, right? So that is how you evolve that role. You just want them to focus on the data insights. You want them to get to the work right away, right off the bat. And that way they can, scale the operations, but take content to the market in much lesser time, right? And I think that also qualifies as, again, democratization. And one of the things that I realized from what Piyush was mentioning is, he mentioned about the tools like Jasper and Conversion. So I think Conversion is now Jasper. We would see a difference in how these tools present themselves in the times to come. And there's a big reason for that. That's because these are the tools that are solely working on helping people with AI use cases. But then there are more comprehensive underlying tools like ServiceNow, Salesforce, all those companies that are providing you CRMs, right? And they have integrated AI into their workflow. So let's say Einstein GPT, that's coming to Salesforce, I believe. And now Microsoft Office suite and Google's own suite as well. So what you will see that you'll have more availability of AI use cases with you. And so all the tools that are specifically oriented towards AI, Jasper and all, they'll have to evolve their practices because, or else they'll be put in jeopardy. That's what I want to say, right? And I don't want to come to a conclusion as such, but I think this could be a development as well, that you would see the tools that are specifically focusing on AI dwindling over time as more underlying and comprehensive platforms integrate AI into their workflows. For example, Notion did. For example, Canva did. Right? So you don't want an external AI tool and integrate. You don't want an external AI tool to be integrated with these tools because they are providing that capability in house. Yeah, so that democratizes it even more.
Wonderful. Love it. Yes. Mrinal, what about you?
I think everything that I have, thought about, or maybe like lot lesser, was already covered by Harmeet. So thank you, Harmeet, for summing it up in a far better way. But I would just leave it at a thought there, as in, and thank you so much for the audience, because this was a hard topic.
Yes.
For staying back in,
Absolutely.
One of the things that I feel like there is a lot of education that is required on AI and how we can use it. And I think essentially more discussions that we have in here and stop feeling intimidated by the technicalities of it, the better it would be. I think the more we will read, the more informed decisions that we will take. I think platforms are there to serve us and to make our lives easier. We just need to understand understand them better. Soft pitch, Binati and I are also launching our course very, very soon. So yeah, stay tuned.
Of course. See, this is why Mrinal is the marketer. Anyway, Piyush, would you like to say some concluding remarks?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. In addition to whatever things were said, I was not present in all the things.
Of course.
But I would just say, let's automate.
Yes.
Let's adapt, be a human being.
Yes.
And let's see what happens.
I love that you mentioned two words which start with A, because AA or Alcoholics Anonymous have that serenity prayer, right? And that serenity prayer is, I think, it's important because a lot of times I believe another word with A, which is arrogance, gets in the conversation when it comes to saying things like humans are better or machines are better or things of the sort. We don't know who is better, and probably that's the wrong question to ask. Ki which one is better, right? The entire problem I have with the frame problem is this only. Ki who's asking this question? Like it depends. Anywho, that will be for AI and the arts part 3. We'll discuss the frame problem in detail, also the control problem. But thank you so much for joining in today. Anisha, I think you saw my Instagram thing. So I will now post this link on Instagram every single time. Thank you for sticking in through the whole thing. I think even Gitu Mami was in it for the whole thing. Paris, thank you for being here. Antonio, thank you. And I think even Muhammad was through the whole thing. I noticed you coming in and out. So thank you for joining us. And hopefully see you next week. Thank you to the wonderful panelists. Harmeet, thank you for agreeing to be my co-host through this whole series that I don't know हम कितना time चलाएंगे, but चलाएंगे ज़रूर. Mrinal, Piyush and Pushkraj, thank you so much for admitting to come up and discussing this thing.
Thank you so much, folks, for coming on.
Yes. Chalo, see you guys next week. I have recorded the audio. Hopefully, I'll be able to post it. Let's see. Abhi editing mein pata chalega. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining in. And the live ends. See you next week.